Hello guys, welcome back to More Than Makeup. I'm Kelsey and I'm so excited to bring you another video episode. The video episode we did last fortnight worked really well and you guys seem to enjoy it and it's easy enough for me to create. So we're just going to keep this up for the time being. But also if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I feel you and I get it. I'm more of an audio girl myself. I love to listen to podcasts when I'm walking, when I'm cleaning, when I'm at the gym. So either way, I hope that you're tuning in. I'm really excited to bring this episode to you. Today we're going to do a little Q&A episode. This is something I've wanted to do for a while. I get so many random business questions thrown my way. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to just answer all of them in one episode. What I didn't expect though, I actually posted a Q&A question box on my Instagram. So I got you guys to submit the questions that you wanted me to answer in this episode. And I actually got quite a few personal questions, which I get it. People love to, get a little insight into your personal life. And I was shocked there were so many personal questions, but I think it is important to talk about your personal life like every so often, just because your personal life, for me anyway, is what's helped shape my business. Like it's helped shape who I am and who I've become and the reason why I'm so driven and the reason why I wanted a business in the first place. So, I like to keep some things close to my heart, but I think that it is nice to share some things with you guys every so often as well. So I'm really excited to touch on that. So we're going to do a bit of a Q&A session today. I think this might be a bit of a longer episode because there were a lot of questions and I was trying to filter through them. There were a lot of double ups and a lot of people, have asked the same thing. So we'll see how we go, but I've kind of sectioned it off. So we'll start with personal life and all the juicy stuff, and then we'll move into the beginning of my makeup career and then into the business and the content and the branding and everything else. So there are a lot of questions about my personal life and my upbringing and my husband and all that kind of stuff. So I understand the upbringing questions because that's something I want to know. Like when I meet successful people or people that inspire me, I want to know their story. I think because I know I have a story, I know that people don't have that work ethic for no reason. Like the people that you see that are really driven and just so self-motivated, usually that comes from something, it stems from something, and we all have something, we've all got a story. But for me, I think it really goes back to, there's multiple things, but I think it's something I've never really shared online before, so it makes me a little nervous talking about it. But I lost my dad when I was younger. So my dad passed away really tragically and suddenly. He had a car accident when I was younger, and that really changed our lives. I didn't know it growing up because it's funny when people ask me about my dad, even still now, people will be like, oh, you never talk about your dad. What's the deal there? It's just not something I put forward online or social media or whatever. But if people ask me, I will talk about it and they're always like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. That must have been so hard. They're so apologetic. And I'm always like, it's okay. I grew up knowing no different. It's fine. And that's true. It's not like when you lose someone at an older age, you have all these memories of them and that can be really hard to let go of. But for me, I didn't have that experience. I lost my dad when I was younger and I grew up without a dad. So I didn't know any different for a long time. My dad died when he was 31, 32, similar age to me now. So now I look at it totally different and I look at it as someone who is now married and has a husband and thinking about kids. I just see the hurt that it caused. And, I imagine that happening to me as a woman. My mum had two kids, me and my brother, and my mum was a stay-at-home mum. So she was just raising two babies. And when my dad passed away, my mum had to go to work. So my memory of that time is him passing away and my mum going to work and being at work for the rest of my life, basically. She went to work 5 days a week. She was a preschool teacher and she never had a day off. Literally never. She worked from 9 till 6. So she would drop us off at school and then my grandma, my nan, would pick us up from school. Of the afternoon, we'd go to my nan's house. We spent a lot of time with my nan, and my mum's one of 4 siblings. So we spent a lot of time with my aunties and my uncles as well. But yeah, my mum was just always working. So I think, that's where I get my work ethic from. No one in my family is in business, but they all work really, really hard. And I think because of what happened to my mum back then, she had no choice. She had 2 kids to raise. She had to just get on with life, essentially. So yeah, I look at that now as an adult and just think I've been through a bad breakup and I've been like, oh my God, I'm never going to feel good again. How am I going to get over this? Then you see people like my mum who literally their life gets derailed overnight and they just have to keep moving and bounce back from it. So I think that is something that has really shaped me, especially my work ethic and my drive, but also my passion for traveling and living life as well, because my dad was in his early 30s when he passed away. So I think of me in the age I'm at now, and I just feel like I have so much more life to live. Like, what a shame to be robbed of that so young. And my husband, he has lost his mum and his brother as well. So he lives every day like it's his last. And he just has so much joy now because he knows that you have to make the most of every day because you just never know what's around the corner. So I think that's why I love to travel and I love to make the most of every opportunity, whether that be a work opportunity or a personal opportunity. Like, I say yes to a lot of things because of that. So I think, to sum it up, that's really what shaped me. My mum, like I said, was one of four. She has two sisters and they raised us. Like, my mum, my nan, and my aunties raised me. And so all of them incredibly hard workers in their own careers. And I just think growing up around women was like really cool, to be honest. I definitely like didn't understand men for a long time because I wasn't really around men all that often growing up. But I think being raised by women was really awesome. And like, we just had so much fun growing up despite everything that happened. It didn't rob me and my brother of anything in our childhoods. Like, obviously now as adults, we both feel it for sure. But, you know, as kids, when you're that young, you don't understand what's going on. And my mum and my aunties just really, and my nan just like gave us the best childhood. So the next question is a question that I get a lot, and it's, how did you meet your husband? And this is much more of a lighter story. And this has been another life-changing moment for me, meeting this man. So I had come to Canada for a bit of an extended working holiday. I wanted to experience living overseas. I had some things happen in my personal life, which you can go back to other episodes to hear about. I'm not going to get into that again here, but had some things happen in my personal life. Was single for the first time in 9 years. Just, you know, sitting in this town in Canada, this very small town, by the way, and just thinking to myself, I'm starting again as a 31-year-old. And, you know, I definitely had moments where I thought, oh my gosh, like, I don't know if I'll ever get married again. I don't know if I'll ever have kids. I know how hard it is to meet someone. Like, I've got a lot of single friends who are in the dating game, and I really didn't know where that journey was going to take me. And I wasn't really interested, to be quite honest. But what happened is that my husband is a barber. He owns a barber shop here in the town that we live in. And funnily enough, I'd actually heard of him before this. I'd heard people speak about him, always spoken very highly of him. At the time, I was living with a housemate named Emily. So when I say by myself for the first time, I meant like without a partner. But I had a housemate named Emily, and Emily's partner is Garrett. And Garrett is a client of my husband. So my husband cuts Garrett's hair. One time, my husband and Garrett get speaking. This is obviously well before we met. And Garrett was telling him all about his girlfriend and how she's living with this Australian girl and they're getting along great and they're doing all this stuff together and they're becoming really good friends. And apparently, from what Garrett and Emily tell me, Bashir, who's my now husband, was like, Australian girl, what's she doing here in Canada? My husband is an immigrant, so he moved to Canada 15 years ago, and Canada's a really hard country to get in front, especially as an immigrant. It's hard out here, right? So from Bashir's perspective, he tells the story like, oh, I was just worried about you, because when Garrett said, you know, there's this girl, she's a makeup artist, she's living here in Canada, he didn't understand what I do in my business, right? Like, he's thinking working makeup artist, like, how is she making money? Canada's very seasonal. A lot of the makeup artists here have second jobs because of that. He says it like he just didn't understand what I was doing in the town and how I was living here on my own as a makeup artist. He owns a hair salon, so he's in the beauty industry. So this is how Bashir puts it. Garrett puts it like Bashir got really interested when he heard that there was a single Australian girl living in town. So I'm in bed, middle of the day, miserable, and Emily just kind of like steps into my room and she's like, do you know Bashir the barber? Like, he's asking about you. And I just sat up out of bed and I was like, what? Someone's asking about me? Because at that point, I hadn't really made many friends here or moved around the town a lot. I was very much just keeping to myself and just doing my own thing. And she was like, yeah, Garrett said that he's asking about you. So then I was curious because I'm like, why is this random man asking about me? And at the same time, I had started to think, you know, I probably should start entertaining dating. Like, why not? I've got nothing to lose. I've got no friends here. I've got nothing else going on. So I'd started to entertain the thought of maybe downloading a dating app or something like that. Anyway, me and Emily stalk Bashir on Instagram. We find his Instagram and I hit follow. So I essentially made the first move because I hit follow. So it goes on like 3 days and he hasn't accepted my follow request. And Emily tells Garrett, she's like, Kelsey's tried to follow Bashir and he hasn't accepted. So Garrett calls Bashir and he's like, dude, Kelsey's trying to follow you on Instagram, like, accept her. And he was like, who's Kellsie? And he got so confused because he just said that he saw this girl follow him on Instagram with all these followers and he thought that she was a crypto girl. So in case you don't know, there's these girls online who who work for like cryptocurrency companies, and they message men. Like, I didn't know about this until Bashir told me, but apparently it's a thing. Like, they try and get guys on board. So it's kind of like an MLM thing. You know how we get random messages from MLM people on Instagram? Same thing for guys. They get messages from these crypto girls. So he thought I was like one of these random crypto girls and didn't accept me. So anyway, Garrett tells him it's me, it's Kellsie, I'm the Australian girl living with his girlfriend, and finally Bashir accepts. Now, I'm dreading it, right? I'm thinking like, oh, the whole small talk thing, like I haven't dated in 9 years. I'm just so not interested, don't know how to do it. I'm at the age where I want to be very upfront about what I want. I, at this point, had written a list of like, the next man I meet, I'm not messing around. If he falls short at any point, it's a no, because at this point, I've got a fresh start. I'm not screwing up again. Like, this next man has to be the one. I knew I wanted to be very upfront about that from the beginning. So I'm thinking, oh gosh, I've heard all these horror stories from my friends about dating. Like, how's this going to go? Anyway, he accepts me. Within a couple of minutes, I get this long, chunky message. No like, hey, how are you? Or hey, just like what I've seen my friends go through on dating apps. Like, it was this long, chunky message. He apologized for not accepting my friend requests right away. And then he said, there's a new restaurant that's opened in town. I'd love to take you for dinner tonight if you're keen. And I was so impressed by that, because I'm a very straight up, like no bullshit type of person. And I definitely wanted to have that approach with dating as well, mainly because of my age. I don't have time to waste. I'm in my 30s. We have this fertility clock we have to think about. Like, I could not be bothered for a time waster. So when he sent me that message, maybe to some other people it would have felt a bit forward, but to me I was like, that is hot. A man who takes control. Like, I didn't want to be put in a position where I'm like, do you want to hang out? Do you want to go for a walk? I needed someone in my life who made the decisions for me and took the reins, and he very much did that. And then obviously I learned that he's Lebanese, and that's a very normal thing. Like, Lebanese people don't mess around. And then he says, if you feel comfortable, because I'm thinking, okay, cool, I'll meet you there. Like, he then says, let me know your address if you feel comfortable and I will pick you up. And I was like, what the hell? Like, I have never, not that I've dated much because I've been in a long-term relationship, but when I was younger and dating, like, I've never been picked up by a man. It was always like, you meet me there, right? So he asks me out, he books the restaurant, and he picks me up. And then little things just kept happening that kept shocking me. Like, when he came to my house, he came to the door, and that was like, I remember saying to my friends, like, he came to the door. Like, who does that? I've never experienced that in my life. Normally the guy would just like pull up out the front and you run and you like jump in the car. That's what I was used to. This man comes to the door. Anyway, long story short, we go on this date. It was amazing. We got to know each other really well. I very much explained to him that I was in a weird spot at the time and had come out of something really serious and really didn't know what I was looking for. Like, I know I'm a serious girl and I don't date around. I very much prefer to be in a marriage, to be honest. I wasn't interested in anything casual. So we had those conversations on the first night. I think the reason why I was interested in him is that those conversations didn't scare him. In fact, he like lent into those conversations, and he also felt the same way. Like, he was open to anything, but he was also more of a serious guy. But he did say to me, like, I know you're in a weird spot, no pressure from my end. He's a very, very stable guy. And I think that's what attracted me to him too. From the get-go, he was like, if you decide this is not for you, that's fine. You just let me know. I'll be okay. It's no big deal. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, are you going to chase me? But he was very secure in himself. And I think that was very attractive for me. From there on, he just kept being a real gentleman, very traditional, which I love. The next day, you know, there was coffee on my doorstep. He remembered my coffee order from the night before. I was telling him what I did day to day and what my coffee order was and blah, blah, blah. And he remembered it. And he put a coffee on my doorstep. It was all these tiny, tiny little things that, you know, to someone else might not be a big deal, but to me, it's like what I was craving. A week later, I had to go traveling for work. I was doing destination weddings in Europe, so I left. So we spent a week together, just like hanging out outside of the house, lunches, dinners, walks, all of that. And then I left. And it was just one of these weird things where like I was thinking about him a lot. And then all of a sudden the FaceTime chat started. And before I knew it, we're like FaceTiming every day. And my husband is very much not a texter. He's a phone call type of guy, which is like, you know, intimidated me in the beginning because I wasn't used to that. I was very much used to texting, but he would just pick up the phone and call and just didn't care. And then it really got to the point where he was like, listen, I want to settle down with you. Like, you're the type of girl I want to marry. And it was like a slow burn, but we both knew from the beginning, if that makes sense. We took our time with it and we didn't rush into anything, but I think we both knew that it was going to turn into something serious from the beginning. And then it did. So there we go. And I think the biggest thing with my husband was like, I have a unique lifestyle. I'm coming and going and I'm not willing to give that up just yet. So from the get-go, I was very clear about what I wanted. I was very clear about my career and the fact that I was like in the peak of it and I wasn't going to back off. And I needed someone to understand that and to support that. And he has very much done that. There's been opportunities that have come my way that I've thought to myself, oh, maybe I shouldn't. I've done enough this year. Maybe I should just stay home or whatever. And he's like, babe, do it. Strike while the iron's hot. Like you have to. So he just supports me in ways that I've never been supported before. We have a great partnership, honestly. I think because he's Lebanese, he's just so open with his communication. And that's what I need in a man. Like I need someone who can just talk and we have fun together. We have a lot of fun. And that's the main thing. I'm grateful that I met someone and that I didn't have to date around because I know it can be hard out there. I'm really happy and really grateful and blessed that we met each other and that it worked because I feel like he's just my person and I just love him so much. A lot of people asked if I wanted kids or if I was going to have kids. And this has been an interesting topic for me for so long because growing up, I was always like, yeah, of course I want kids. I'm going to be a mum. I thought by the age of 30, I'd be married and have all the kids and whatnot. But the older I got, the further away I got from the kid thing. It was almost like I just got so into my career and I was loving that path that I just thought, I'm not ready right now. I don't know if I want them or if I'm just not ready. I don't know what this feeling is, but whatever it is, it's not for me right now. Also, I think when you're in the wrong relationship, you don't want to have kids to the wrong person, right? So I think that was off-putting for a long time. Now that I've met my husband and I look at him and I'm like, you need to have children because you would be such a perfect dad and such a great example of a man. You need to pass that on to a son, and he's just such a provider and such a good caretaker that I know he would help me so much. From what I hear from my friends, that you really need a good partner, especially if you're a career woman. Like you need a partner that can support you through that. We have been having the conversation, of course, I'm 34 now, so you can't help but have the conversation at this age because it's like, right, if we're going to do it, it's got to be soon, So yes, I think it would be a beautiful thing to have a baby with my husband and it's definitely something we're talking about. How many kids? I'm really not sure about that. I don't think I can go off and have 4 kids now at this age, to be honest. People say you change your mind once you have kids, but I still want to focus on my career and I still want to keep doing a couple of destination weddings a year and a couple of masterclasses and all of that. So I don't know if that would be possible if I was to have a huge family. So I maybe see myself having a couple, but TBC. Let's see how this year goes. I love this question. A lot of people ask, if you weren't a makeup artist, what would you be doing? So I actually loved my job that I had before I was a makeup artist. I was an event planner and I worked for an incredible company doing a lot of big corporate events, but also like fun weddings and stuff like that too. So I've been in the bridal industry for a really long time. Now, my job as an event planner is actually quite similar to my job as a makeup artist because there was a lot of event planning involved. And in my makeup career, I'm doing event planning with my masterclasses. Also, I did a lot of sales in my past role. I do a lot of sales in my current role. They actually overlap quite a lot. And I really loved that career. The only reason why I gave it up is because I wanted to be self-employed. I always wanted to have my own business. I always wanted to just be doing my own thing. I hated working for people as much as I loved the company. I hated the structure of 8 to 5, lunch break at 12. Like I don't operate well like that. I always knew I had an entrepreneurial mindset. So that's really the only reason I pivoted. Makeup, I knew would give me more flexibility and it has. But I think if I would go back to something else, it would be that. I love working in the wedding industry. It's fun. It's ever changing. It's always different. Someone asked what was the turning point for you going into makeup while working in corporate. So the turning point for me, I was obviously doing makeup on the side as we all do. So I was working corporate Monday to Friday, doing weddings on the weekend. Now in my corporate job, to be completely transparent, I finished with them in 2020. So like 6 years ago, right? So 6 years ago, I was making $1,000 a week at my corporate job. So my goal was to make $1,000 a week in makeup. That would mean, even though like I wasn't considering my taxes and all of that on top of it, but I was just like $1,000 a week in makeup means that I can quit the corporate job because then, the salaries are aligned, which basically was just like one wedding a week. If I did a good wedding a week or like 1 to 2 weddings back then, depending on my prices, it happened pretty quickly. And I was neglecting my makeup business when I worked in my corporate job because I was relying and falling back on that salary like it was a security blanket. It wasn't till I I quit the corporate job that I really went balls to the wall with my makeup business, because you have to. When you don't have that salary or that safety blanket or security to fall back on, you better believe that you will go out and you'll find those makeup jobs. You will do whatever you can. You will work for $100 if you have to. Like, I just worked so much harder once I quit my corporate job. So it was the scariest thing in the world, because I remember I quit at the beginning of the year. You know, back in Australia, June, July, August is our quiet season. I had no bookings for June and July. Not many people get married around those months. So I had 6 months to get my shit together and to figure out how to make money, because I had no choice. I will say, when I first quit my corporate job, I did work in a restaurant for a couple of nights a week. I think I did like 2 or 3 nights a week in the beginning, dropped it back to 2, dropped it back to 1. And then finally, after like 6 months, I got rid of it because I didn't need it. But there's always little things like that you can do. You know, if you want to transition out of the corporate job, maybe you can pick up something like that, a hospitality job or something, a couple of nights a week if you feel scared. But for me, I just knew it was time to take off. Also, I just remember working in the corporate job and just kind of looking around and just thinking like, I have to get out of here, you know, because right now I'm making someone else rich when I could be making myself rich. And that was really a driving force for me. Like, of course, money has always been a driving force for me. I don't know what entrepreneur goes into entrepreneurship and doesn't think about money. Like, okay, if I can do 8 to 5 on my laptop for my own business, imagine the life I could build for myself. So there was that as well. But ultimately, I just had to take the risk and just, you know, I remember the day going in there to quit my job and just feeling so sick, but it was the best thing I've ever done. I'm moving into some questions people had about the beginning of my career, and then it'll kind of intertwine with some business tips on what you can do if you're at the beginning of your makeup career. So someone asked me, what helps you stand out when you're first starting out as a makeup artist? And honestly, I think when you're starting out, you just have to move around. You have to get out there in the community. You have to go to makeup masterclasses. You have to go to networking events. You have to offer to assist. You have to make your face known. Like, if you're just sitting online, and don't get me wrong, love online networking as well, but I meet thousands of makeup artists, right? Online, in person. But the ones that I remember are the ones I've met in person. You can't put a price on meeting someone face to face and having a real life conversation with them. So getting out there, you know, and putting yourself out there. And I know it's scary in the beginning, but if you own the fact that you're a learner, people want to help. You message people and you say, hey, like, I'm looking for experience. I'd love to assist you on an upcoming job. Happy to work for free, whatever it is. Like, you know, I'm so drawn towards when people want to assist me, I'm drawn towards the ones that are driven. And I've talked about this before in other episodes, but I'm drawn to the ones that are like, I'll do anything because I really want to learn from you. And I'm so driven and I love makeup and I really want to make this a thing. Like, they're the ones that I'm drawn to. So just put yourself out there. Quite a few people ask this question, and I know that this is a universal experience, probably in any business, but definitely in our business. So someone said to me, have you ever experienced people close to you not supporting you? And then another question was, when you started gaining traction and success, were other artists in your community acting cold towards you or indifferent when they used to be friendly? If yes, what did you do in those moments? I will say that I've been really lucky with my circle. My friends and my family have always really supported what I've done and really taken it seriously. And I think that maybe that was just because of me. I took it so seriously from the beginning. So they were like, oh, well, she wants this thing. She's going to go get it. We better like support her on this journey, you know? I think maybe they had no choice, but I've been really lucky in that sense, because I do see those posts online where people are like, oh, if your friends aren't liking your Instagram story, they're not really your friends. I see that kind of stuff. It's not my experience, but what I will say is that I've definitely experienced it within the industry. 100% with makeup artists, which is so sad that this is a thing, but I've definitely experienced it with people in the industry, especially when my TikTok and Instagram started to take off. And then like everything unfolded after that, right? Like I started booking the destination weddings and like big things started to happen. I definitely noticed people drop off. You notice the people watching your Instagram stories, but not commenting or supporting you in any way. On the other hand though, you know, you have so many other people that are messaging you being like, oh my gosh, Kellsie, like I can't believe what's happened. Like this is insane. You deserve it. So I really just try and focus on that side of it. There's always going to be people that are jealous of what you're doing and insecure about what they're not doing. It's really their problem. It's nothing about you. It's nothing to do with you. It's nothing to do with what you're doing. Like you're doing nothing wrong. It's really just a reflection of the fact that perhaps they're a little insecure that you've gotten there quicker or you figured it out. You know, that's all it is. Like I said, on the other side of that, you'll have a community of people that are rooting for you. And that's what I focus on. Like I might get one negative comment that makes me feel sad, but then in the next breath, I'll get this novel message from someone just saying how much much my podcast has helped them. And because of what they've heard, they've quit their job pursuing makeup and blah, blah, blah. Like, focus on that positive stuff. I think it is definitely a normal thing to happen. And of course we notice it. Like, we're human. We notice when people are watching everything we do and not supporting us, but that's okay. You just keep doing what you're doing. You keep supporting other people too. You know, that's a big thing. If you put support out, other people will support you back. Not all the time, but most of the time. So I think you just focus on you being a good person, focus on your business, stay in your own lane. Don't worry about that. It's hard to ignore it in the beginning, but just focus on the people that are supporting you and rooting for you. This is a really good question. Someone asked, have you ever felt insecure because you're self-taught and not professionally trained? And the truth is, I really haven't. I own the fact that I'm self-taught and I've figured all of this out. Like, obviously there's always more to learn and I'm always still learning and growing. But for the most part, I taught myself how to do makeup through the help of other artists, by the way. Like, it depends what you call self-taught. I've been to so many makeup masterclasses. I've done so many online trainings, so many. So like, I'm self-taught and self-educated through books and podcasts and online training and in-person masterclasses. I just haven't been trained by a makeup academy. And to be quite honest, the people that I speak to that have gone to an academy don't have amazing things to say about it. I did do a 6-week bridal makeup course through an academy, and it was only 1 day a week. So essentially it was a 6-day course, right? And to be quite honest, I cannot tell you one thing I learned in that. I can't think of one piece of knowledge or piece of advice that stood out from that. I find sometimes the institutions can be just a little bit outdated. I want to learn from people that are doing current things, that understand how to use social media, that understand makeup trends and, you know, have really strong product knowledge. Like, that's who I want to learn from. So I definitely did a lot of that. And yeah, like I said, I think I love the fact that I'm self-taught. Like, I think it's cool. I think it's fun to know that, like, I didn't pay $20,000 for a tuition, but I have a really successful business. But it goes to show that, like, I've put in work and time and consistency in other ways. I'm still educated in my own way. How do you manage to have a great mood around clients when you're having a bad day? So I've actually done a whole episode on this. It's my grief episode. It's my most downloaded episode. People are still sharing it around because I think we can all agree that you're never going to feel 100% on a wedding day. And sometimes we have bad days. So I've got a whole episode on that. So flick back and have a listen to that. And I really, talk about how I've managed that because, we all go through hard times, whether it's just a bad day or whether it's a bad season. And it's hard when you're a makeup artist. So I definitely share some tips over there on that. Someone asked, what is your crazy bride wedding story? I know we all have one. Look, I'm going to be completely honest. I see people sharing these stories online, like these horror stories. And they're so concerning. And I get asked this in every single makeup masterclass, and I rack my brain trying to think of something that stands out, and there really is nothing. I've never had a crazy horror story. Like, I've had difficult clients, don't get me wrong, especially in the beginning of my career. I've had difficult clients. I've seen some interesting family dynamics where, the daughter's screaming at the mum and treating her terribly, or like the sisters have a fight on the day. I just don't have one of those horror stories that's worth sharing, which I feel really grateful for. And it feels like everyone's had one but me, so I don't know what that's about. But yeah, to be honest though, if I did have one, I don't know that I'd talk about it because I'm always conscious of my brides and my clients. They've paid me. They're my clients. They're the ones who have supported my business. So would I share the story if I had one? Honestly, probably not, out of respect, but I'm being completely honest when I say that I don't really have one. Have you ever had an I made it moment? And if so, what was it? I love this question, and I always get asked this in masterclasses as well. I think when you're a passionate, driven, multi-passionate entrepreneur, you never really feel like you've made it. Truly, you never really feel like, oh my gosh, I've done enough. This is my moment. I've made it. This is what I've been waiting for. This is what I've been working for. It doesn't really happen, but there's a couple of standout moments in my career. I would say the first thing is when my TikTok blew up. I'd be lying if I said that wasn't something that I'm proud of, because I'd been hustling on Instagram for so many years and nothing was happening. Like, I was caught in that 3,000 follower jail and I just couldn't figure it out. When I decided to go hard on TikTok, I saw really quick results. And this is going back 5 years ago now, right? So it's a bit harder to get that result on TikTok now. Though not impossible, it's just a little bit harder because there's more people on TikTok. So when that happened, I did think to myself, I figured it out. I've got the algorithm. I understand it. Like, let's go. That was one. The second was a big wedding I did almost 2 years ago now. You guys probably saw it all over my Instagram if you're following me. It was a big wedding I did in Lake Como. It went viral, but it wasn't the virality of it that made me feel like, I've made it. It was the business opportunities that came from that. It was the coaching calls that people booked. It was the masterclasses that were selling out after that. It was the bridal inquiries that I was getting, the luxury high-end inquiries that I'd always wanted after that. It was the people that I'd met. That wedding just brought so many incredible opportunities. If I could message my bride Jordan every day and say thank you for that, I would literally harass her because I just owe so much to her because of that. So that was another one. And then I also want to just mention when I launched my course, Global Glam. So when I launched that, I knew that it was a really niche-y course and I knew there was nothing like it out there. And I knew because I'd built a career in destination weddings, this year will be my 5th year in destination weddings. I knew because I'd built my career based off of that, people were really keen to learn and to understand how I made that happen and to try and do the same thing. So I had a feeling the course would be popular and I put my heart and soul into it. And I was confident, but I didn't quite anticipate how popular it would be. And still to this day, it's like my bestseller. And off of the back of Global Glam, I was able to buy myself a house. Going back to the transparency of me around money, like I am driven by money and I have goals in my life. And one of my goals was to buy a house on my own and to invest in property on my own. And when Global Glam allowed me to do that, that was a moment where I thought, wow, this is insane. And this is what I hoped would happen, but I can't believe I actually made it happen. So there's multiple moments, but I've never felt like, oh, I've made it and now it's time to like rest on my laurels. Like, no, I'm working. I'm here every day thinking of new things, thinking of new ways to help you guys as makeup artists, thinking of new ways that I can inspire you, thinking of fun, creative content that I can create that's just fun for me. Like I'm always trying to plan ahead. And that's what entrepreneurs do, I think. Okay, I want to move a bit more into business. So there was a lot of juicy business questions. The first one is how to focus on getting your own clients without working for other teams. And honestly, I'm going to be like a broken record here, but everything comes back to content. There will be people that will tell you that content is not a deal breaker and content is not do or die. And like you can get clients through referrals and blah, blah, blah. And like, while some of that is true, referrals are not dead, but put it like this, someone can refer you as a makeup artist, that client who's deciding whether she's going to book you is still going to go to your Instagram to see if she likes what she sees. So like back in the day, referrals were strong because people would just book makeup artists based off the referral. They wouldn't even look at a portfolio. They never had a portfolio to look at back in the day before Instagram was a thing, right? Like my auntie got married and the makeup artist just showed up on the day. This is like 25 years ago. She never knew what to expect from this makeup artist. That story is wild to me, because nowadays that wouldn't happen. Like the client might be referred to you from someone, but they're still going to go and look at your Instagram. So everything comes down to content. So really honing in on your content, building a strong portfolio. Again, like I said before, networking, getting out and about. Like it's not what you know, it's who you know. When I moved to Canada, I knew no one. I knew not one single person in this town. When I say that, I truly mean it. I had to get on Instagram and start messaging people and be like, hey, I'm Kellsie. I'm a makeup artist. I'm new here. Can we meet up for coffee? And get in front of photographers, wedding planners, people in your industry, but not even that, like just anyone. Like I was going to gyms, I was bouncing around all of the gyms in an effort to meet people because I knew that these people could become friends first and foremost, but potentially clients as well. So it's all about just getting out there. Someone asked what was the first breakthrough point for you in terms of growing an Instagram following. And like I mentioned before, the TikTok following came first for me. So my Instagram, I will say I was barely posting my face because I felt that imposter syndrome on Instagram. I hate on Instagram how you can see who watches your stories. I think you can see who viewed your profile on TikTok. I don't know how to look at that feature, but people have told me that. But it's a bit different to Instagram where like you can see every single person that's watching that story, right? Instagram used to make me nervous because I would get upset if I would post content and I'd see people watching my story but not engaging or supporting. So that did a number on my imposter syndrome. And so Instagram scared me for a while. When TikTok came around, TikTok felt more anonymous. And it was weird because I was getting such high views. So I knew like, oh, there's 300,000 people watching this video. But weirdly enough, because I couldn't see who they were, it was just a number for me. I wasn't self-conscious and I just kept going. So TikTok came first for me. But then what happens is when you grow a TikTok following, naturally and gradually those followers come over to Instagram. So my Instagram following started to creep up. All of a sudden I had like 20,000 followers. Then I did the big viral wedding in Italy, which I spoke about a little while ago. And off the back of that, I want to say I got like 30,000 followers off the back of that. It was crazy. Before I knew it, I was at 100,000. I remember because I posted on my Instagram stories, I went from 60,000 to 130,000 in a year. And this is after the Lake Como wedding. Like that was just growth I did on my own. And I just honestly put that down to posting every single day. That's all I was doing. I was posting every single day. I was showing up my stories every day. I was putting out content that was relatable and educational, and a lot of relatable posts that makeup artists could relate to, which I think helped. And then just makeup tutorials and sharing my knowledge about makeup and products and whatnot, I think helped. But it's like going to the gym. If you want to lose weight or you want to gain muscle, you go to the gym every day. If you want to build a brand and, build an online following, you've got to post every day. And if you look at the creators that have a high following compared to some, like my following's not that big. Like there's makeup artists out there with millions of followers. They're posting 3 to 5 times a day. Like they're putting in work. So it really does come to the consistency. But yeah, I think the breakthrough for me on Instagram was probably the Lake Como wedding. And off of the back of that, I kept the momentum going. So that gave me a kick. And then I just built momentum from there. And yeah, now I'm at a place with my Instagram where for me, of course, I wanted to build a following and I wanted to build a global audience, but I do not aspire to have 1 million followers. The more your following grows, the more people judge you. People leave negative comments about you. People say mean things to you. And I can't imagine having 1 million followers and what that would be like. I see the comments that are left on these big creators' pages. I know you get to a point where like you don't internalize it. I feel like you still would a little bit, but you would get numb to it in a sense. I don't really want that. I'm content with my following at the moment, and I really just want to nurture that community. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. I love this question. In 2026, we're looking back on 2016 makeup. What trends do you think we will see when we look back in 2036? Love this question. It's so hilarious because trends just come and go. And we know that. Like we see that in fashion. Everything just like comes back. I watched this whole podcast recently about how kids, like Gen Z kids, and even younger, I don't know what that is, if it's still Gen Z, but whatever, young kids, like 19-year-olds, they're using iPods and like Discmans. You even see people using headphones that are plugged into their phone. Now, like people are going back. It's like, I forget what it's called, but it's like some form of like minimalism where people are like circling back to the way they used to do things. And so it's the same as any trend, right? It comes around full circle. At the moment, what's trending right now? I mean, the crazy pink blush, which I'm wearing right now, like we're all crazy for blush right now. Blush is just having its moment. It has been for like a whole year. The way we see the blush like up under the eyes, I don't know if that's something we're going to look back on and regret at some point. There's that. What else are we seeing? The freckles. The fake freckles, like that could be something that we look back on and just think, why did we draw sunspots on ourselves? It's kind of bizarre when you think about it because, you're told to avoid the sun so that you don't get these sunspots. But then as makeup artists, people are asking for us to put them on. So that could be something we look back on. Maybe like the overdrawn lips, like mine right now, very overdrawn. I don't know. I love it. But like in 10, 20 years, is it going to be something we look back on and regret? The laminated brows. I'm so guilty of all of this stuff. Am I just one of those girls who like falls in and caves to trends? I've already seen some things about laminated brows that people are a bit over it. I love a laminated brow. I think my brows look amazing just because I love a thick brow. I love a structured brow. I think it gives the face dimension, but some people are starting to say that it's like not cool anymore. So maybe that could be something. Who knows? I want to move into content. There's a lot of questions here about content and branding. So let's get into that. The first question is, why don't you use average looking women to demo your makeup in your workshops? And that's a very reasonable question. It really is. The person that asked this has asked me this a few times in my DMs and I've answered privately, but in case anyone else is wondering, I'm going to answer it here again. So there's a few reasons. Firstly, when you do a makeup workshop or a makeup masterclass or an online course or whatever, that's considered a campaign. I have a photographer there. I have a videographer there. I'm using that moment, that workshop, that masterclass, whatever it is that I'm hosting, as like a branding exercise as well. I'm getting photos for my website. I'm getting photos for my brand. It's a campaign essentially for my business. So naturally, using a model is going to be more effective because models know how to pose. They know how to work the camera. We're going to get more professional imagery if we're using a model. With that said, she asks why I don't use average looking women to demo makeup. It really depends what you consider an average looking woman as well. What is that? That's different to everyone. Last year, I did make a point of using non-models as my makeup demo models in my masterclasses. So I actually used a few of my brides because I also agree that for the most part, not all of our clients artists are models. So, there's certain skin conditions we might be working with as working makeup artists that would be helpful to understand, from like an education perspective. And so I did make an effort to do that. I think for the most part, it's like asking any brand, why don't they use someone off the street to wear their clothes or model their skincare or whatever it is? Like, we use models because models know how to work the camera. They're professional. It's a professional setting. It's a campaign. So why wouldn't we? Also, just on that note, I think that if you don't like how someone else is doing things, or you see something and you're like, I wish she would do it like that. I wish there was a resource out there for this, or I wish that existed. Like, go and do it. Like, go and do it yourself, because that's a gap in the market. If you would love to see a makeup masterclass on I don't know, she's saying average looking woman. So whatever you consider an average looking woman, if you want to see a masterclass on an average looking woman, then go and make one, because maybe that's a gap in the market. Maybe some people would be really interested in seeing that. So that could be when you're trying to come up with business ideas, look for problems and solve them. If that's a problem that you see in the education space, then maybe you can be the one to solve it. Just giving you a business idea. Someone asked, how do you organize your content and use one look for multiple posts? And this is something that I'm a big fan of. So when I was trying to grow my TikTok, my goal was to film 3 to 5 videos a day. I'd sit in front of my camera and I'd film. I'd always have the one core video. So this is the one video that I'm going to be focusing on. Then off the back of that, I'll make some other videos. So for example, you could be doing a makeup tutorial. Then off the back of that, you've got your makeup done. You're going to show them your top 2 lip products. You're going to do a talking head video where you're just talking to the camera. Your makeup's done, but you're talking to the camera, you're sharing advice, you're sharing knowledge, blah, blah, blah. You could also pull a brow video from that. Like, I think people overcomplicate content so much when really there's just opportunities everywhere, especially when you have videos that perform well. Like, take them and chop them up and post them again. Post them as trial reels. I have a trial reels guide on my Instagram because a lot of people still don't understand trial reels and how to use them. So go and grab that guide if you're new to trial reels or you've never heard of them, because, I repost some of my viral content as trials and they also go viral too. So that's another way to repurpose content. But I think when you're sitting down to film, having a game plan and aiming to pull 3 to 5 videos from that one sitting, that's what I like to do. Someone else has asked how to make the most of content on the bride on the wedding day. Great question. I think first and foremost, you want to ask the bride if she's comfortable being filmed, if she's comfortable having the tripod there. And if so, then just go for it. You need to have a charger as well because your phone will die when you're filming content. But I like to pull the tripod back and get like a really clean snippet of me working on the bride. So there's one video of me doing the bride's makeup. I like to do a little tutorial if I can, not every single step because it's hard to film, and also you don't need to film every single step. Like, just try and get the core pieces. Definitely filming the finished look, really just filming as much as you can. You want to kind of adopt the role of content creator and makeup artist without the content creator part overshadowing the makeup artistry part, which can be hard. Like, you have to kind of be a little bit subtle about it. What I noticed though is that once the tripod's set up, the bride doesn't really notice you going back and like pressing record and stop. It's not a big focus of theirs, and you can do it in a subtle way. Like, if they're talking to their mum or the photographer or something, then you can go and reposition the tripod. Like, be subtle about it, but also try and film as much as you can so that when you get home, you've got a lot to work with. I also really recommend going in with content ideas. So, okay, today on this bride, I'm going to film a tutorial. I'm going to film the finished look. I'm going to film a video of me doing her makeup that I can put some relatable saying or text over the top, and I'm going to get something cute of her in the bridal party. That's 4 videos, right? If you don't go in with a plan, then you'll get home and you'll be so overwhelmed by the content in your camera roll. So have your content plan before you actually get to the job. That's my biggest piece of advice. Someone asked, how do you come up with ideas for reels and where do you look for trending content? And I'm going to tell you something that might be controversial. I don't care for trending content. I don't care for trending audios. I don't think that it's smart to build your brand off of trends, because what happens with trends? They die in the ass. They die. And another thing that happens with trends is that every single person is doing it. So how are you going to stand out when you're doing something that 5,000 other makeup artists are doing? Like, you're just not. Sometimes, don't get me wrong, I will jump on a trend early on. So if I see something trending in another space, another industry, I'm like, I can probably relate this to makeup. Like, let's go. Like the Kanye betrayal list, I did that really, really early on, and it went pretty viral because I was one of the first makeup artists to hit it, right? But if it's been done done, and they get done. Don't get me wrong. When those things are trending, like I'm seeing it 3,000 times, right? So if you see it being done, then my advice would be just let it go. Film some other piece of content that tells your audience something about you, that shares a story that's more relatable. Show your personality. Your personality is the best niche and the best trend possible. Like you're going to trend off of your personality quicker than you'll trend off of a trending sound. So I don't love trending content. I don't like to play into it too much. It's fun every now and then, but I honestly think if you just keep posting your personality and showing who you are, people are going to be more drawn to your content. What type of content performs best for you? This varies all the time. Like when I started out on TikTok, vlogs were just slapping for me. Some of my vlogs are getting like 500,000 views, which is crazy because if I post a vlog now, it flops. I'm lucky to get 10,000 views. So it's always changing. I think what's worked for me is sharing relatable advice for makeup artists. I think that's where my strength is. It's in helping makeup artists, hence why I created this podcast, because I'm just passionate about it. That's another thing about content. It's like the algorithm knows what you're genuine about and what you're not. If the algorithm knows that you've copied this from someone else, this is a trend, or this is just something that really is ingenuine, it's like it almost knows and the content flops. The minute you start sharing what you're passionate about, it's so natural that the algorithm and the audience can't ignore it. It's like why this podcast has probably been running for an hour already, because I'm passionate about these topics. Like I could talk about it all freaking day, right? So that's the type of content that performs best for me because it's what comes to me naturally. So I always say to my coaching call clients, like if you can't think of a content idea, what's something you care about? Forget about the content creation, forget about the video, forget about everything. What do you care about? What are you passionate about? For me, I was always passionate about helping people build a business. So I started sharing business tips and they performed really well because people could feel my passion through the camera, right? So you have to figure out what that is for you. But for me, the content that performs best is definitely my relatable makeup artistry stuff. Obviously, my brides perform really well. I have great brides. I work in incredible venues, which I'm so grateful for. So that does really well as well. But for the most part, it's always something with me in it. That's another thing, like branding 101. If you're in the video is going to perform better. So get in more of your content. Someone said, I want to wear luxury outfits to my studio and to weddings, but not all of my clients are luxury. What do you suggest here? This is a great question. I've definitely been in that season as well, where like I was only charging $120 for bridal makeup and my brides were really chilled and I'm doing like backyard weddings. But I could wear activewear if I wanted to. I could wear jeans if I wanted to. But I made the conscious decision for my brand that I wanted to start showing up. Not just for like my brand, but for myself. Like I think we all know at this point that if you do your hair and you do your makeup and you put a good outfit on, you feel better. You feel more confident. The bride is going to be impressed by you. She's going to be impressed that you put effort in to her wedding day and that you care about her enough to show up with a nice outfit on. And so I just started dressing nice. It started out with just the blazer. I just throw a blazer over my jeans or throw a blazer over I used to wear bike shorts a lot. So I do the bike shorts and the blazer. I used to do that. And then it moved into like the suits and the nice dresses. And now I kind of dress, depending on my location. So if I'm in Mexico, I might wear a dress. If I'm in Lake Como, I might wear something more sophisticated. I pick my outfits based on where I'm working, but it's just fun. And I think like, why not? If you want to get dressed up and you want to show up as the best version of yourself, then do it. Don't let your clients or where you're working control that. You can get dressed up to go and work in a cafe if you want. Like, why not? I say go for it. Someone asked, how do I get into bridal makeup? I want to just remind you that I have quite a few episodes out now because I've been posting weekly. I'm doing fortnightly now, but for the most part, I was doing weekly. So there's quite a few episodes. I do have an episode a little bit back called How to Take Matters into Your Own Hands. And I really do a deep dive on how to get into bridal makeup. So definitely go back and check that out. People have also asked, I'm a baby makeup artist. What are some tips you'd give to build successful businesses? I'm going to give you like a rapid fire, like 3 of my best tips. My first would be networking. So it's not what you know, it's who you know. So get out there and meet people. My second tip is to figure out social media. I'm so sorry, but I don't want to say you can't have a business. And everyone's version of success looks different, right? But I personally don't think that you can find strong success without understanding social media. Even Kim Kardashian says it in her new masterclass. I haven't actually watched it, but I've seen snippets of it. She says you cannot build a brand without social media this day and age. And I 100% agree with that. And then my third would be just upskilling. Of course, social media is important, but we need to be good makeup artists as well. So attending as many masterclasses as you can, which, you're killing 2 birds with one stone. You're learning how to be a better makeup artist and you're networking. So they're my 3 pieces of advice for new makeup artists. Oh, I love this question. What do you think is the biggest thing that holds makeup artists back from success? And honestly, the biggest thing I see in everyone. I do coaching calls every single day with makeup artists. I offer mentor programs. I'm speaking to makeup artists in my masterclasses and just like on a daily basis, right? Like I'm talking to makeup artists. The biggest thing I see holding people back is confidence. It's actually getting on camera and taking advantage of that skill and showing their face and educating their audience and talking to their audience and sharing their advice, sharing their stories. I think people really, really struggle with it. And this is why self-development for me is so essential. Self-development in the form of maybe going to some workshops outside of makeup artistry, like coaching programs, books, podcasts, therapy, like anything you can do to just expand your mindset. Like that's what it's about, right? Because when you don't have confidence and when, imposter syndrome rules your life, you do have a limited mindset. And I've been there. I'm still there sometimes. There's still things that pop up that I have imposter syndrome and I don't feel confident. I've talked about that in my confidence and imposter syndrome episode. But essentially, like your mindset is not stretched. It's very contained and you need something that can release that. So for me, therapy was a big one, but a lot of business self-development. Like I read a lot of books, which leads me to the next question. Someone said, what books would you suggest for makeup artists starting out in business? One of the first books I read, which was literally like, I want to say 15 years ago. And it's crazy because I had no social media following at that point. But before I started makeup artistry or really got into it, I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur and have a business. So I read this book that was called How to Start an Online Business. Now, in that book, there was something really pivotal that stood out to me. So in the book, it said, don't try and teach yourself a new skill because the business will take 10 times longer because you've got to learn the skill and then you've got to learn the business side of it and all of that. He said, think of a skill you already have and build the business off of that. Now, I have always been into makeup. I've always loved makeup. I was doing makeup artistry on the side at this point. I was barely doing weddings or anything like that, but I was like doing makeup for friends and like fun things and whatnot. And so when I read that, that was when the light bulb went off. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to do makeup because that's what I'm good at. And that's a skill I already somewhat have. I knew that I had to expand on that skill and I had to get better. But like that book really just made me go, yeah, okay, it's time. The second book, which I bang on all the time about, is Big Magic. This is not so much a business book. It's more of a mindset, creativity book. It's written by Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, very well-known author. Now, in that book, which I've talked about a lot in my confidence episode, she talks about fear and creativity and how if you want to live a creative life and be a creative person or an entrepreneur, essentially entrepreneurs have to be super creative, then you have to understand that fear is going to be a part of that. So going back to the question where someone asked me, what stops people from being successful? It's confidence and imposter syndrome because they have fear that they're going to fail or fear that someone's going to judge them or fear that, it's going to be a disaster or whatever. But Elizabeth talks about how you have to live with that. Like, don't let it stop you from doing what you want to do. You have to accept that, yes, okay, I'm nervous about this thing and I'm fearful and I'm scared and I'm embarrassed and I feel cringy and whatever it is. But guess what? I'm going to do it anyway because it's going to lead to something and it will lead to something if you get out of your own head. So that book was amazing for me, again, to just expand my mindset around imposter syndrome and fear and growth and all that kind of stuff. Another book I really liked, which I've never talked about, but it just popped into my head, is called Blowing My Way to the Top, and it's by Jen Atkin. So Jen Atkin is a hairstylist. She did the Kardashians' hair for years and built the brand Way, which is in Sephora. It's a hair care brand, and I think she has another brand called Main Addicts or something like that. She has built an incredible business. At this point, I think she's like half retired. It seems like she lives in Seattle and is just raising her babies and she has these businesses that just run for her. So I read that book and it was super inspiring because I think when you look at these people that are super successful doing celebrity and that kind of stuff, you just think, which is a limited mindset and a limited way of viewing things. But sometimes you look at it and you think, oh, they got it easy or they must have known someone or whatever. But then you read their story and like Jen Atkin's story is really impressive. She was just a small town girl from Utah, like packed her car, drove to LA and, worked in salons doing blowouts and like whatever. The career grew from there. So that's an amazing book. Really love that one. And I really love Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits is a great book when you want to start becoming more productive. So for me, I was like, okay, I've quit the full-time job. I now have a full day. How am I going to be as productive as possible and move the needle forward and grow this business? So Atomic Habits taught me to be really strict around discipline and like how I structured my day and how I worked on my business, not just in it, right? I think that's a big mistake that, we all do it. We have to do it. We have to work in our business, but you want to get to the point where you're not not so much working in your business, you're working on your business. That's what Atomic Habits taught me. So I love those books. What's the best advice you've ever been given? I get this question all the time, and it's hard to narrow it down because I've been given a lot of good advice, but the one that always just stands out to me, one of my best friends is a personal trainer, and very young, her and her partner bought a gym and got into business really young. I want to say she was like 24 or 25. We were so young, right? Then when I started my business a bit later on, closer to 30, I was having all these feelings and all these emotions around imposter syndrome, feeling that competitiveness, like, oh, why is this person doing better than me? Like, why can't I be doing what she's doing or whatever? I've talked about this a whole bunch in my confidence episode, but I had those feelings and I went to my friend who, already had a business and was doing really well and was like 10 steps ahead of me. And I just said, oh, I don't think I'm good enough for this. I don't think I can do it. I'm not very good. There's so many people better than me. And she stopped me and she was like, Kellsie, I'm going to tell you something right now. Don't compare yourself to anyone else or it will completely derail you. If you keep doing this and you keep comparing yourself to what other people are doing, it's going to derail your business and you're not going to make it. That's the part that will lead to this whole thing blowing up. That mindset around like imposter syndrome and feeling like you're not going to make it because other people are already doing what you're doing, that's going to derail you. So that's something that's just always stood out to me, that like I needed someone in that moment to be like, just stop worrying about what other people are doing. And I preach that now. Don't look sideways. Just look ahead. Look at what you're doing. Don't worry about what anyone else is doing and just focus on your journey, because who cares what anyone else is doing? It's like people still say to me, oh, should I become a makeup artist because there's so many makeup artists out there? It's like, the town I live in has about 1,500 cafes. What would have happened if one of them was like, oh, I'm not going to open this cafe because there's already one down the road? You just never know. There's someone for everyone, right? So that was a piece of advice she gave to me in the beginning that I always just come back to be honest. I had a few questions from makeup artists who have been out of the game for a little while and they're wanting to get back in the makeup game. So one question was, what tips can you give a makeup artist that has had 15 years off and now wants to get back into it? First thing I'm going to say is you need to teach yourself the skill of social media, because 15 years ago, it wouldn't have been a thing. It would have been a thing, but like not to the point that it is now, right? So you need to teach yourself social media. You're going to have to do some self-education. You're going to have to do a course or team up, get a coach, like do something to learn how to use Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. That's going to be absolutely vital for your regrowth, rebirth. The second thing I want to give advice on is I think a lot of people often assume that like your mentors should be older than you, like the people that you look up to should have these incredible careers and like should be something you aspire to. And of course, like there's that. But for me, I also seek mentorship from the younger generation. Like I have a friend, Kendall, she's 10 years younger than me. And at this point, I feel like she's one of my besties. Like we've spent so much time together this year and we talk all the time and I feel like we're really good friends. She's way cooler than me. So I hope she feels the same about me. But Kendall is someone, because she's so much younger than me, that she picks up on things that are happening on social media that I'm not aware of. Even when it comes to editing, like how to choose certain fonts and like, oh no, we don't cut the videos like this anymore. We cut it like this. Or we don't speak like that anymore. We speak like this. Do you know what I mean? So Kendall almost keeps me young in a sense. Another example is Jada Marie. Jada Marie is a makeup artist, well known from Vancouver. She lives in Nashville now. Her and I became good friends a few years ago. She's someone else I watch closely because she's younger than me and she's up to date with what's going on. I don't ever want to be that makeup artist that looks like a millennial makeup artist, looks like I don't know what I'm doing online. So for me, it's important to stay close to the younger generation. So that's something I would suggest as well. And then, aside from the content, aside from the mentorship and like paying attention to what the younger people are doing, I would just get into masterclasses again, like zhuzh your skill, go to some masterclasses, do some content days, and just, hopefully if you learn the skill of content, you'll be able to take that new skill that you're learning and apply that into the content and get a really strong portfolio happening. Someone said, what are my thoughts on deposits? So she currently does a 50% deposit. Is that too high? So everyone's different here. This is something very personal. As we know, pricing in general is a very, very, very personal thing. Everyone does it differently. Everyone has different opinions on it. I used to do a 50% deposit until COVID. So what happened in COVID is that everyone cancelled their wedding. They all wanted their money back. Now, I am not that person who will withhold money from someone. It doesn't sit well with me. I understand we have contracts in place and all that kind of stuff. On the odd occasion, if a client breaks a contract, it's very case by case, right? There might be an occasion where I'm like, okay, this is messed up. Like, no, I need to be compensated for this. But for the most part, I'm giving people their money back and I'm moving on. I don't want the conflict in my business. I don't want the drama. I don't want the back and forth emails. I can't be bothered. So in COVID, it was a tricky time because I feel like a lot of us didn't have really strong contracts in place before COVID. I think that is when we all went, holy shit, like we need some contracts in place. But for the most part in COVID, everyone wanted their money back. I had taken 50% deposits like a year in advance. So all of a sudden I'm refunding like thousands and thousands of dollars. So that was when I first thought, I think 50% is too much. First of all, if I need to cancel on them for whatever reason, like I fall pregnant or I get sick or something tragic happens, I have to cancel on the bride, 50% is a lot to refund. If the bride has to cancel on me for whatever reason, they break up, they change the wedding date, whatever it is, 50% is too much for me to refund. It goes both ways, right? So I take a $200 deposit. And a lot of people say to me, well, are you certain that's locked in and that's a for sure thing? Because $200, like that's nothing to some people, right? So if they wanted to cancel me because they found a better makeup artist or whatever, they could and it just wouldn't matter. To me, I take the $200 deposit to lock in the date. 3 months before the wedding, I take a 50% of the balance. So at that point, that's when I would book my flights and book all the stuff for the destination weddings. Like I'm not booking any of that too far out because I'm very aware that life happens, life changes. Like I literally book my travel a month before I go. That's just the way I operate. But I do make sure that at the 3-month mark, I take the 50% so that then I've got the money to book the flights and whatever else. And then if she cancelled after that, I'm keeping that 50%, right? So that's how I do it. I think I learned that $200 deposit thing off Mia Connor. I remember going to one of her masterclasses and she said she only took $200 and I just thought, well, it makes sense, especially off the back of COVID. And I think it's like a low commitment, but it can be handy if you ever have to refund someone because you're not refunding as much. How long did it take for you to start being booked every weekend with weddings? I would say it took me about a year. Once I started assisting and really, again, got out there meeting people, I went to a couple of bridal fairs. So I exhibited at some fairs, like little pop-up fairs. So I really was like getting my name out there and trying to build my reputation. And I think that really helped. So I would say once I started actively doing that and like actively posting on socials, then that happened. It can happen pretty quickly. That's the thing, but it all comes down to you and like how much work are you prepared to put into it? How hard are you prepared to work? Because if you're prepared to work hard, and by work hard, I mean like posting almost every single day and maybe doing one thing a week for your business that can move the business forward, then it can happen quicker than you realize, but you have to be willing to put in that consistent effort. A few people were interested in online courses, how to go about selling them, how to go about creating one, all of that. I feel like I should do a whole episode on this, to be quite honest, because it's a question I get a lot because obviously I sell online courses and I've been doing it for 4 years now. So my first online course was 4 years ago. So I started early. It's gotten a lot more popular now in the industry. So I think, you want to be creating something that maybe hasn't been done before. That's why Global Glam for me was so successful because it hadn't been done before and it was nichey. But it's a whole thing. An online course, it's easy to create, right? Anyone can create it. Anyone can get a production company to come and film them, or you can sit in front of your camera exactly as I am now and film a course. That's the easy part. The hard part is selling it because you got to think, right? If you're already not confident showing up on camera for the business, for the service-based business, then how are you going to show up on camera to sell this course? Because you have to. Selling online courses is one of these things like you got to talk about it every day. The minute you don't talk about it, you stop making sales. The minute you start talking about it again, you're making sales. So it's got to be something where like you have to ask yourself, am I confident enough to push this thing? And a lot of makeup artists are like, oh, I don't want to sound salesy. I don't want to be repetitive on my Instagram story. Like if you have those feelings, you're kind of not ready because it is sales. Like it's sales techniques. So I think you have to ask yourself whether you're ready to do that. But essentially, yeah, the online course thing, it's a great source of income. It's transformed my business and I love it. I don't want to deter you from doing it. I think anyone can do it, but there's a lot of work involved and a lot of it is in marketing and sales. So you have to have that part of your brain switched on or at least be willing to learn. Someone asked, how do you brand yourself as an elevated artist when you're just a beginner? And I don't think there's like a wrong or right time to start being elevated. It's kind of like going back to a similar question we had before, but I think it's in little things. So I did start trying to do things well in my business from the get-go with the idea that like, I want this to be an elevated brand. I want to be a sought after makeup artist. business by high-end brides. Like I knew where I wanted to take the business. I had that vision, that direction, right? So from the beginning, I was like, okay, I need systems set up so that I appear professional, even to these newer brides who are having backyard weddings and like aren't paying me very much. And I'm just a beginner. I'm aware of that, but I want to set myself up from the beginning. So I think it's a great question. A couple of things for me. The first thing I did was the website, because a website immediately showcases that you're a professional. And don't get me wrong, I prioritize Instagram over my website, but I think for a bride, when she can submit a form on your website, that appears really professional and that appears really like, okay, this girl's for real. So I would get the website happening. Doesn't have to be a huge thing. Don't pay someone $5,000 to do it. Use Squarespace and use a free template. That's what I did, and get the website form. Another thing I realized in the beginning that was making me appear unprofessional was the fact that I didn't have a website form. So I was like emailing back and forth with brides. Sometimes it'd be like 20 emails back and forth of questions. She'd ask me something, I'd ask her something. We were back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Then I thought to myself, Kellsie, first of all, this is too much work. Second of all, this is so freaking unprofessional. Like you need a website form that asks every bit of information you need, and then you can go back to her with every piece of information she needs. And it's like 2 emails, right? So that's the first thing you can do. The second thing you can do is just keeping your online presence clean, keeping the content high quality, which is hard in the beginning when you're learning. Like it's always going to be a bit messy in the beginning. Like if you can be conscious of like, hey, I want a clean feed, not perfect. Like no one's going to have a perfect feed, but you want it to look approachable. You want a bride to come to the feed and be like, that's really nice. I love her work. So cleaning up the highlights, cleaning up your bio, just making it look nice and clean. Obviously the way you present yourself is huge, and I bang on about this. People have mixed opinions on this, but I believe that as I like to show up, by the way, I enjoy dressing up. I enjoy doing my hair and makeup. Like it makes me feel good, so I like it. Therefore, I incorporated that into my job, because back when I started out, everyone was wearing activewear to jobs and it was fine. I was doing it too, but I just feel better when I dress up. So I started doing it at work, and it's been a nice touch to my business. So there's that. I think they're the main things. It's just like branding. Taking branding seriously, I think, is really important. Someone asked how to do successful consultations. I also have an episode on that. It's called How to Bounce Back from a Bad Bridal Trial, and I talk all about that there. Oh, someone asked, are there any mistakes that I see beginner makeup artists make? And honestly, not really. I think in the beginning, it's very much throw it at the wall and see what sticks. Like it's a bit messy and a bit clunky in the beginning, and that's fine. It has to be like that. You have to figure out your own groove. I would say the only mistake I see people making is them trying to do everything on their own, trying to figure it all out on their own without seeking help from other makeup artists or avoiding masterclasses. And I know like masterclasses are an investment, right? And a lot of people get turned off by the cost. But at the end of the day, you walk away with so much confidence from these classes. You walk away with a whole new community of friends and a network. You walk away with new skills. Generally, you walk away with a goodie bag full of new products. But for the most part, you walk away just with more knowledge in general about artistry and the industry and business and all of that. And you can't put a price on that. So I think just like new makeup artists should just be getting in rooms. But in terms of mistakes, I don't really see people making mistakes. I just think that you can't do it all on your own. It's great to get a coach or a mentor or someone that can walk you through it, because it can just take a bit longer if you try and do everything yourself. So I would say that, and just not prioritizing content. Sorry to say the C word again, but it's got to be a big part of it. It's got to be a priority. Okay, I had a really special question that I wanted to wrap this up with. Someone said, what's something you're really proud of? I was obviously reading over those questions, but I didn't want to read into them too much because I wanted to answer on the go and authentically. Someone's asked me that at a couple of my masterclasses, and I really struggled to come up with the answer. What am I most proud of? But I think when I look at my career as a whole, and I don't mention this enough, but I think what I'm most proud of is moving countries. I don't talk about this enough, but I left Australia where I had a successful bridal makeup business and I was booked and busy every single weekend and had a really good thing going. For someone to look at that, I remember my mum saying to me, oh, so you're going to give up the career here? Things were green for me. The grass is not always green on the other side, right? So why would you give that up? Things were going really good for me. And I decided to give it all up and move to a place where, like I said before, I knew no one, knew nothing, didn't have one friend, nothing. And I've built a community for myself here and I've built my business here. That's the truth. And I know that Canada can be a little bit challenging. It's an expensive country, taxes are high and it's seasonal. So especially in our business, it can be tough. When I was in Sydney, I was relying on the bridal business. Yes, I had started to dip my toe in content creation, but for the most part, I was falling back on the bridal business, right? When I got to Canada, I had to think to myself, how else can I make money? Let's just sit down with myself and write a list and just think, Kellsie. think, how are you going to do this? Because I was not making money here. Your reputation doesn't follow you. No one cared who I was. No one cared that I was experienced and I had a good business and blah, blah, blah. I needed to figure something else out. And that is really when I went hard on content creation. So I started getting brand deals, and then I started building my online courses, which, you know, is my biggest source of income now. So Canada challenged me and made me think outside the box, which I'm so grateful for. And I think coming over here and now having a community of people around me, like I'm friends with so many business owners here. I've collaborated with so many of them. I've made some of my best friends here. And I just think that's what I'm most proud of, because it's hard. And anyone that knows, it's so lonely when you move countries. There is nothing lonelier. Like I've never felt more lonely in my life than being here, because you don't have your best friends. You don't have your family. You don't have your cousins. You don't have your coffee shops. You don't have your gym. Like everything is foreign and new, and you have to rebuild from the ground up. Like I went back to charging $50 per person when I was charging $500 per person in Australia. I did that because I knew what I had to do to rebuild. So it was so hard. And I think looking back now to be like, oh wow, I'm now running a really successful business in this country. That's something I'm really proud of, and the friends I've made here and the connections I've made. Okay guys, that was a really fun episode. I can't see the time, but I think it was a bit of a long one. So if you're still here, thank you so much for following along. If you've made it to the end, please remember that if you do want to subscribe to any of my courses or anything that I have online, you can use the code More Than Makeup. It's a special discount for you guys, my listeners. And I'm so glad we got to get a little personal today, and I got to share a bit more of my story with you, and of course some more business advice. I love yapping about business, as we know, and I really enjoyed that episode. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I will chat to you on the next episode.